Good morning. Now look at me. If I say that I'm just over 35, are you going to believe me? Too damn true you're not. But with fake news and with fake PR, anything is possible. One thing that I do admit to is finding new technology, particularly the social media kind, quite difficult. But I think that that's true of everyone. I had an alert on my camera phone yesterday that I'd used up all my extra data, and I wouldn't get any until August the 4th. So I phoned O2 and said, look, this is the case, can I buy some more, knowing that you can, which I did. And immediately I got another sign saying, you've used up all your data. So heavens, if I use it up within sort of 3 minutes, I have no idea what I'm doing to do that. And then when I came to use the data service this morning, because I couldn't get an internet connection, did it work? No. So now I'm going to have to chase back again. So I sometimes think that the experts don't know much about it either, and I don't feel so badly. The fact is that I've had to walk up, and in some ways I suppose I'm being a bit of a pirate because I'm using one of the coffee shops. Free internet connections. Luckily I will go and have a coffee there a little later, so I don't feel too badly about nicking the internet connection to get on the air this morning. Now the weather, it is going to be very, very hot again. It's going to be 30, 34, 35, and that's in Lewis, so can you imagine what it's going to be like in the big cities? And the sun is peeking over the downs, and once again I don't dare show you because it'll burn out the camera. You'll just have to take my word for it. It's a beautiful sight as it starts to appear over the lip of the hills, and to put this lovely medieval town, which I can show you, or bits of it anyway. That's the view one way, without burning out the camera. That's the view the other way, and it puts the sun coming up the way that it is, puts a lovely glow on it. But beware, it's so hot. If you're travelling this morning, the chances are that the trains will be very slow. I doubt they'll even be on time, because the train companies rightly are worried about the lines, tracks buckling, and they don't want to have a disaster where a train comes off the track because it hits a buckle or a stretch of, don't worry about the light there, a stretch of track that has got so hot that it can't take the train satisfactorily. I have to go to London a little later, and I'd actually designated a train, but I think I'm going to take one a half hour earlier, just to make sure that I don't fall victim to the things that I'm alerting you to right now. Now, social injustice. I decided I would just look up what the experts think the top 5 social injustices in the world are. One is ageism. Well, that's alive and well in the UK, isn't it? And it's actually alive and well in East Sussex, because every time that they want to save money, they pick on something like the bus pass for the elderly. They start to charge for going into libraries and that sort of thing. So we've got some fine leaders who look after that social injustice. Secondly, believe it or not, is the fear of a bad administration. Whoopee! We've got that as well. We're doing very well in the stakes of social injustice, and I thought when I tapped in that I would see all sorts of things in some of the countries that we tend emotionally to think Africa and India and Southeast Asia, surely they are the places that indulge in social injustices. It's not a bit of it. We seem to be working well. Out of the top 5, we've got 2 already, and the third is illiteracy. So Have you tried conversing or actually getting a written reply from our local council at all? So when we come to illiteracy, we're well placed for that. But also, so much dependence now upon what I'm doing, using social media to converse and to communicate with, is that we are becoming a nation of illiterates. And it's a worry. People either can't or won't read now. And amongst the worst offenders are our politicians, who have so much put in front of them, and just with little yellow lines through it. Or they in turn get a lot of their stuff off the internet. Will we not be a nation that is illiterate? That illiteracy will start to grow. We have some problems already because we've tampered with the educational system from time to time. We do have people who have difficulty reading. And I'm not talking about people who have true problems like dyslexics and so on, who actually do attack their problem very well in the main. I'm talking about the average person. We are becoming illiterate. So here I was looking for examples from around the world, and I find that out of the top 5, the first 3 can be easily applied to home. And are we doing anything about it? Not a bit of it. We're always too busy pointing the finger at what we think are the poorer nations, or those who we slightly see in a discriminatory way, that they should be the people that we should feel sorry for. Well, it's about time that we... Now, I want to tell you, I want to show you a young man struggling to work, who you haven't heard from in a few days, but you're coming back tonight, is it, or tomorrow?
I've got a brand new telescope coming tomorrow, so I'll do a little video on that.
Right, on the telescope, and on you're going to talk a little bit about the eclipse too, aren't you? Because people don't understand eclipses.
No, I'll explain it a little bit, well, best I know anyway, so...
Well, there you are, you see, you're getting your morning taste of Adam Hare. He's also, look at him, he's had his hair cut. And doesn't he look handsome? Hey, come on, girls. All those girls that have been typing in saying, "Who's Adam?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not a bad young man, is he? Not at all. No. But a very talented young man, and you will be seeing more of him on Mirador over the next few days, and then consistently, certainly after we've readjusted everything in August, in September, he'll kick off with some really great stuff. Okay, you can go to work now, Adam. God bless you.
See you later, mate.
Okay. There's Adam. He's a great guy, I'll tell you. He's a great guy. Anyway, let me get back to my rant about social injustice, because the funny thing is, you know, that sometimes those nations that we laugh at, or we sneer at, or we look down at, have their own way of adjusting stuff. I was in Damaturú, right? You can barely pronounce it. Took me a little time to. And it's a town in the northeast of Nigeria. I quite like going to Damaturú, even though it has no street lighting. The taxis are actually hopping on the back of little motorbikes, and there's one hotel and 2 restaurants. But there's a certain affection I have for it. But we spoke there, or at least I was training journalists, and I said, look, don't take any guff, ask direct questions. And they gritted their teeth, because sometimes they are discriminated against in those parts of the world. They gritted their teeth, and we went to a press conference that had been called by the Commissioner for Education. And I'd picked up on something that, and I said, this is the question that you ask. There were Nigeria nationally had introduced free school meals. And there was some little difference in the statistics that the local commission had claimed for 75 meals, only to find that there were 45 people on a spot inspection, 45 students in school. there's a little difference there somehow. So they asked the question, and he said, now let me think. Yes, I remember that day clearly. He said, there were a lot of funerals that day. In other words, the kids went to school because they'd taken off to funerals, but they still ordered 75 meals for them. Well, now, that's the sort of thing that we can laugh and say at. But also, they have what they call street children. Living or sleeping and so on isn't a big issue there, simply because it's so hot. Strike a bell, hot. The so-called street children, the children that have been abandoned by their families or their parents, or were born out of wedlock or whatever, tend to wander around on the streets and so on. And they're able to sleep outside, and it's not a bad thing actually. Everybody would like to sleep outside up there. It gets very, very, very hot. But I saw a chap who drove up, and he had a word to one of these people, one of these kids, and the kids scurried off. And I saw him picking up litter and putting it into the bin, and then he came back, and the chap gave him some money. So I asked my African colleague what was going on, and he said, we won't accept beggars, but these children are unfortunate, and what the local population does is they send them to do good works, and then they give them enough money to survive. Now, pretty raw stuff, I would think. In fact, I can just see now people here saying how appalling. But it works. It's a system that works. It's a system that tells these kids there is no handout. That what you have to do, despite your circumstances, is do a little something to earn the money that you're going to get. And the citizens play their part. Well, why don't they have orphanages and so on, you may say. These are pretty poor parts of Africa. But nonetheless, it is a system that works. And if it works, as I say, don't mend it. If it ain't broken, don't mend it. And it's a system that has worked well in that part of the world. Now, I'm not suggesting that we can apply it here, but when you come to social injustices, and I've just outlined 3 that we have in this country, in my opinion, and I'm particularly against ageism, but the way that other people actually buckle down to try and look at their problems. A question of the chiefs having 8 or 10 wives, and one of my colleagues, who is he's a business journalist, and he's a very good business journalist, and he dresses well, but he's quite happy to say, my father is the chief by his 4th wife. And I sort of got some idea in my mind is if he's got all these wives, first of all, is bigamy one of those crimes that we've decided against? Is bigamy something that it should be addressed with our international development money? But first of all, they totally accept it. And secondly, I said, well, when the latest wife, the 7th or 8th wife, how does he get on with the rest of the wives? Well, he said, the chief lives in a house, and then he provides 7 or 8 houses for each of the wives, and they get on and have their own lives, and it's just when he decides to favour them, off they go. Oh, well, that's dreadful, isn't it? I mean, that's real male dominance. But the fact of the matter is, it works. And when you've got 180 million people, and you're something like the 3rd or 4th largest country on the face of the earth, you have to find practical solutions. And perhaps that's what's wrong with our politicians, is we're not finding practical solutions. We do a lot of talking, but we don't come up with much. We don't come up with any solutions. And just reading a bit in the Argus, and the quote from our new leader, how long will she be, our new leader, and who said something like, well, we want to be very, very open, and we want everybody to know. Well, she said that to me at the meeting too, Mrs. Nicholson, and I detected that when they're in opposition, they say one thing, and the moment they gain power, they're immediately defensive. Are we going to see change here, locally? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of talk, and the real issues, as seen by experts, I didn't make up that list, by experts, okay, you can challenge the list if you want, and some do, but by experts, are not addressed in our own backyard. So why do we worry so much about what's happening abroad, where in fact they've found a practical solution? We may not like it, but it works. Why can't we get something that works? Oh dear, you're stirring it, Keith. You're stirring it again. Till tomorrow, and hopefully it'll be a little cooler tomorrow. That's what the weatherman says. And today, another scorcher. Till then, toodle pip.